Right, so in the bedroom that we're decorating, there is a little bit of this really beautiful skirting board, and I would love to replicate that around the rest of the room. I reckon at some point it must have gone all the way around, but it's been taken out at some point when there were sort of decorations or renovations at some point in the chateau's life. So I've looked everywhere and haven't been able to find a sort of a moulded piece of wood that is similar to the existing shape of the skirting boards. But what I have found is a router bit that I think might be quite a good match. If it's not identical, I think it will certainly create the same sort of effect, and I can then replicate that all the way around the room, and I think it would look really, really good. So I have a router which has been very trusty on some projects over the years. And what I've also found is, sort of shopping around on eBay for just £30, I found this router plate, which I have right here. Essentially, the idea is that I've screwed it on to the bottom of the router, and what I can do is I can cut out a piece of wood, a hole in a piece of wood, and then create a sort of a grooved recess so that I can then drop the router into that piece of wood, and then I've got a router table. That's the plan anyway. The idea of having a router table is if you're doing a really long piece of wood and you need to make sure it's absolutely smoothly sliding along the cutting blade, by having a table you can then just run it along the surface of the table, and then you should, or at least we hope, we'll get a really nice clean cut, and the pattern will just run smoothly all the way along the skirting board. So that's the plan. I just need to find some pieces of wood that I can cut a recess into for the router plate to drop into, and then hopefully we'll be able to start making our own skirting board. Right, so I've just been outside using the router. It's really windy outside, so I don't think you'll be able to hear me if I did this video out there. So I brought it in. For this, I've been using this really massive router bit, which gouges out a huge amount of the wood. I think it's probably a little bit too much for this particular router plate, at least without a fence. Now, I could have a go at trying to design my own fence and install that, which I might have a go at, but I think we've got to get started with this project, installing the skirting boards, and I think it's probably not going to be quite right for that, because as you can see, it's just jumped about a little bit and it's not quite the smooth, perfect finish that I was hoping for. So either I think we simplify the design for the skirting board and go for a sort of a bit that takes a little bit less wood out, or we might just try and use some off-the-shelf mouldings that we can then attach to the top of the skirting boards. But I'll have a little tinker around with it a bit more and see if I can improve the result. That is a tight fit.
Still making a router table.
Yes.
How do you feel like?
Take this out, put it in there. Right, let's see if this fits. Right, let's see if this fits. Next up, we'll see if we can attach the vacuum cleaner. Ooh, I've got a bit as Right, we've finished filming and now it's just a mad rush to try and make even more progress so that before the camera crew come next week, we can actually show a bit of progress, because a lot of this stuff isn't that exciting for TV, but I'm hoping some of it's quite interesting for people who are watching on YouTube who might want to know a little bit more about some of the stages in between. What are you up to, Chris?
Cleaning up so much dust from the bathroom that we were cutting earlier on. I'm so tired, sorry. That's it, that's what I had to do.
Right, so through here, this weekend we have started. I've built a router table, I keep calling it a router table. I've built a router table here, which we're still finessing. I'm trying to make it really secure so that when we run the wood down, it doesn't move at all, because the problem is even when I built this fence, I still found there was a little bit of movement as we ran the plank along, which made a bit of a mess. As you can see, it's sort of ruined the finish of the skirting board in places, so we'll have to do that one again. But we've also installed these windowsills, which is the first time we've ever installed windowsills, of course. A lot of these jobs are the first time we've done them. We used real pine. I slightly wonder whether we should have just gone for something cheaper like MDF or plywood, especially given how expensive the wood was. It was eye-wateringly expensive, but in the end we've gone for this. Hopefully it will work really well, and it's painted up very nicely. We have plastered the wall behind me, or we've plasterboarded it, we've not plastered it. Next we've got to fill in all of the cracks and fill in all of the screw holes, and get a really smooth finish, so when we put the wallpaper on, it looks really good and there's no kind of like visible bumps. Behind here we have to strip off all of the wallpaper, tidy it up, and likewise over here. And then we've got to put the outsides of the window frames, so I think just window frames, aren't they? And we've got to cut the window frames to size, install those, and then the skirting boards too, which also will be running all the way around. And that's what we've been making the router table for. It's a total mess in here, as you can see, but it's just kind of a little bit chaotic when you're filming and doing DIY all at once. So we've just finished filming with Château DIY, and it was a bit of a disaster. The piece of wood that I cut to drop the router plate into was just not quite the right size, and I couldn't find anything to support it on. So the first few attempts were a bit disastrous, and there was this piece of wood which just got completely gnarled up. But we've been making tweaks since. So Château DIY left last night, and this morning we think we've got it working properly. So we found that by putting in lots of pieces of wood and really fixing them, we've made a really firm fence, and then we've just got to be really, really careful when we're guiding it through. I've also remounted the router table on a ladder, which seems to be providing a much longer support than than doing it on the workbench that I was using before. And we've managed to churn out enough of the bits of skirting so that hopefully it should look really, really good. Oh wow, I think that's really good. That's probably the best yet. There's a couple of little jumps here, but they're really tiny.
Do you think that will stand out?
Yeah, they'll stand out fine. It's really good. So the next step is, well, Chris has got to paint them first, because I don't really enjoy the painting. Yeah, then we've got to install it. So finally, you can make some progress on the next stage. We also, whilst we had the router out, we also used it to cut the MDF for the windowsill. So we basically used a piece of MDF with a bull nose on the end, and then attached a shop-bought moulding to build it out and make the full window frame effect, because we found that actually it could match the look of the existing window frames really closely without us having to cut all of the patterns into the wood. So that's worked out really, really well. Okay, let's find out what Chris is up to.
I'm painting, Jolly. I've been trapped in here for hours, slaving, painting.
Sounds like you've got the right music there.
I'm delirious.
Is that, what's it called, primer?
Second coat of primer, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, very good. These are some window frames that we've been making. We've been trying to match the ones that are already in the room as closely as possible. So I've got a piece of MDF which I've put a bull nose on with the router, and then these are actually pieces that I was able to find in a shop, mouldings, and the plan is, it's the wrong way around, put that on there. We will glue them together, and that is a pretty good match for the window frames we've already got. So then it'll just be a case of sticking them together and cutting them to the size of the windows. Right, but today's job is sticking them together.
Right, let's get this up. I can't really help much, can I? It should just hold up though, shouldn't it? How much do you weigh?
84? I don't think that you can both get on it. But it'll probably be alright if you go on the side. Seems too big now.
This is great, yeah, it's like a perfect match.
Oh, this one's... The little wedge we made is too big. Can you believe?
Can you put it, force it down?
I think we're going to have to take a tiny shaving off this.
Will I do it?
Hmm? Yeah.
Okay. Do you know how much?
Still too big. A bit more. Just a whiff of sin. There we go. Right. I have to tidy up the edges a little bit with. That looks really good. Quite chuffed with that.